Mike Anderson lived a simple life as a firefighter in Boston, working extra shifts to help pay for his daughter's medical bills. On a cold December morning, he got a call about a massive fire at the Sterling Tech building. While other firefighters hesitated due to the intense flames, Mike rushed inside after hearing screams from the top floor. Through thick smoke and falling debris, he found Sarah trapped under a heavy beam. Despite the building starting to collapse, Mike stayed with her, talking calmly while working to free her. He managed to carry her to safety seconds before the floor caved in. Mike suffered severe burns and smoke inhalation, landing him in the hospital for weeks. Little did he know, this act of bravery would lead to an encounter that would transform his life in ways he never imagined. Hi everyone, welcome to Mystic Tales. Today I am excited to share a new story with you. Mike Anderson parked his old Honda Civic in the fire station parking lot. It was 6 a.m. and the morning shift was about to start. His colleague Tom walked up to him with a cup of coffee. "Rough night with Emily?" Tom asked, knowing about Mike's daughter's health issues. "Yeah, her fever went up again. The new medicine isn't working as well as we hoped," Mike said, rubbing his tired eyes. Mike had been working double shifts for the past 3 months. His daughter Emily's rare autoimmune condition required expensive treatments that insurance only partially covered. At 12 years old, she spent more time in hospitals than at school. The morning briefing was interrupted by the emergency alarm. The dispatch radio crackled. "All units respond! Major fire reported at Sterling Tech Building, 425 Madison Street. Multiple people trapped inside." Within minutes, 3 fire trucks raced through the streets of Boston. Mike could see the thick black smoke from blocks away. The building was a modern glass structure, with flames visible from the 8th floor. Chief Rogers gathered the team. "Fire started on the 6th floor. Building evacuation is underway, but we have reports of people trapped on the upper floors." Mike and his team geared up quickly. The heat was intense, even from the ground. As they entered the building, visibility was poor. The smoke burned their eyes despite their protective gear. "3rd floor clear," crackled the radio. "5th floor clear," another team reported. Mike and Tom worked their way up to the 8th floor. The temperature was rising dangerously. Suddenly, they heard a faint cry for help. "Someone's still up here," Mike said through his mask. "Mike, the structure is becoming unstable. We need to get out," Tom warned. But Mike had already located the source of the cry. In an office area, he found a woman trapped under a fallen beam. Her business suit was covered in soot, and a small cut on her forehead was bleeding. "I'm Mike from Boston Fire Department. Can you move?" "My leg. I can't feel it," she responded weakly. The building groaned ominously. Tom's voice came through the radio. "Mike, get out now. The floor below is starting to cave." "There's someone here. I need 5 minutes," Mike responded. He assessed the situation quickly. The beam was heavy, but he could lift it enough for her to slide out. The smoke was getting thicker. "I'm going to lift this beam. When I do, I need you to pull yourself out. Can you do that?" She nodded, coughing. Mike positioned himself and lifted with all his strength. The woman dragged herself clear of the beam. Without hesitation, Mike scooped her up in his arms. The journey back was a blur of heat and smoke. Mike's lungs burned, but he kept moving. They made it to the stairwell, just as a loud crash echoed behind them. Part of the floor they'd been on collapsed. Outside, paramedics rushed to help. As they took the woman from his arms, Mike collapsed, his vision going dark. The last thing he heard was Tom calling his name. Mike woke up in the hospital room. The beeping of monitors filled the silence. His throat felt like sandpaper and his chest ached with every breath. A nurse was checking his vitals. "How long was I out?" Mike asked, his voice hoarse. "About 2 days. The smoke inhalation was severe," the nurse replied. "Your daughter has been asking about you." Mike tried to sit up but winced from the pain. The burns on his back and arms were bandaged. Dr. Martinez came in to check on him. "You're lucky, Mike. A few more minutes in there and things could have been much worse," the doctor said. Mike thought about Emily. She must be worried sick. His ex-wife Susan had been taking care of her, but he knew hospital bills were piling up for both of them now. Tom visited later that afternoon. The whole department's talking about what you did. Chief said it was both the bravest and stupidest thing he's seen in 20 years. The woman, did she make it? Mike asked. He's in the hospital too, few broken ribs, smoke inhalation, but she'll recover, Tom said. Hey, I brought someone who wants to see you. Emily walked in slowly with her crutches. Her face lit up seeing her dad awake. Dad, you scared me, she said, carefully hugging him. I'm sorry, sweetie. How are you feeling? Better than you, Emily smiled. Mom's outside talking to the doctors. Susan came in looking worried. Mike, we need to talk about the medical bills. The insurance is giving us trouble again. I'll figure something out, Mike said, though he had no idea how. The next day, a hospital administrator visited his room. Mr. Anderson, someone has requested to pay for your medical expenses. What? Who would do that? The person wishes to remain anonymous for now, the administrator explained. Mike felt uneasy accepting help from a stranger, but he knew he couldn't afford to refuse. His savings were already drained from Emily's treatments. Later that evening, a nurse brought him a letter. The handwriting was elegant but slightly shaky. Dear Mike, I'm still recovering, but I needed to thank you. When everyone else backed away from those flames, you stayed. You risked everything to save a stranger. I'll never forget what you said to keep me calm while lifting that beam. Rest and focus on healing. We'll talk soon. Sarah. Mike read the note several times. The memory of that day was still hazy, but he remembered her voice, scared but determined. A week passed in the hospital. Mike's burns were healing well, but the doctors wanted to monitor his lungs. Every day he received fresh flowers, but no visitor card was attached. 2 weeks after the fire, Mike was finally discharged from the hospital. His first stop was Emily's doctor appointment. In the waiting room he noticed a business card had been left on his chair. It had an address and a simple message, tomorrow, 2 p.m. The address led to a small coffee shop downtown. Mike arrived early, his burns still tender under his shirt. A woman sat alone at a corner table, her arm in a sling. She smiled when she saw him. Mike, please sit down, Sarah said. I ordered coffee for both of us. Up close, Mike could see the healing cut on her forehead. She looked different from that day, composed and professional, but her eyes held the same determination he remembered. Thank you for the flowers and for covering the hospital bills, Mike said. It was the least I could do, Sarah replied. But that's not why I asked you here. Tell me about your daughter. Mike hesitated, then showed her a photo of Emily on his phone. She has juvenile arthritis. It's a rare form that's hard to treat. The doctors mention you've been working double shifts, Sarah said. The treatments are expensive. Insurance doesn't cover the new medication she needs. Sarah placed a business card on the table. I'm the CEO of Sterling Tech. We have a medical research division working on autoimmune diseases. I'd like Emily to join our treatment program. Mike stared at the card. I can't accept that. It's too much. Mike, you stayed in a burning building to save my life. You have third-degree burns because of me. Let me help your daughter. Why didn't you tell me who you were at the hospital? Sarah smiled softly. I wanted to meet you as just Sarah first, not as a CEO. I've learned that titles often change how people act around me. They talked for another hour. Sarah explained the treatment program. It was part of Sterling Tech's medical research, testing new treatments that showed promising results. The program starts next month, Sarah said. All expenses covered. Think about it. That evening, Mike discussed it with Susan. They researched Sterling Tech's medical division and its treatment programs. This could really help Emily, Susan said. Her current treatment isn't working well enough. Emily was doing her homework when they told her. Her face lit up with hope. Does this mean I might be able to play soccer again? She asked. Mike hugged her carefully. Maybe, sweetie. We'll have to see what the doctors say. The next day, Mike called the number on Sarah's card. Her assistant answered. Mr. Anderson, Ms. Parker has been expecting your call. She asked me to set up an appointment with our medical team whenever you're ready. A month later, Emily started her treatment at Sterling Tech's medical facility. The building was different from the usual hospitals, brighter and more welcoming. Dr. Roberts, the lead researcher, explained everything in simple terms. Emily's current treatment plan isn't targeting the root cause, she said. Our new approach shows better results in reducing inflammation. Mike watched as Emily had her first treatment. Sarah stopped by to check on them. "How are you feeling, Emily?" Sarah asked. "The nurses are really nice," Emily smiled. "They gave me a tablet to watch movies during treatment." Mike noticed Sarah walked with a slight limp, a reminder of her injuries. She caught him looking. "Physical therapy 3 times a week," she explained. "Some days are better than others." After Emily's treatment, Sarah invited Mike to her office. The view showed the construction work on the burned building. "Insurance covered most of it," Sarah said. "But we're making improvements. Better fire safety systems, wider stairwells." "I'm sorry about your building," Mike said. "Buildings can be rebuilt, lives can't," Sarah replied. "How are your burns healing?" "Getting better. Doctor says I can return to work next month." Sarah nodded. "I talked to Chief Rogers. He speaks very highly of you." Mike returned to work on light duty. His colleagues welcomed him back with a small celebration. Tom brought a chocolate cake that his wife made. "The department got new safety equipment," Tom said. "Better oxygen tanks, improved heat sensors. Someone made a generous donation." Emily's condition started showing improvement after 2 months of treatment. Her joint pain decreased, and she could walk longer distances without her crutches. During one of Emily's treatments, Sarah joined Mike in the waiting room. "A research team wants to expand the program," she said. "Help more kids like Emily." "The treatment's making a real difference," Mike replied. "She smiled through her physical therapy yesterday." Sarah showed him some papers. "We're setting up a foundation to fund treatment for children with rare autoimmune conditions. I'd like you to be on the board." "Me? I don't know anything about running a foundation." "You know what it's like to be a parent fighting for their child's health," Sarah said. "That perspective is valuable." Mike thought about all the nights he spent worrying about Emily's future. "We need people who understand what these families are going through," Sarah continued. "Someone who can help make decisions that really matter." 6 months after the fire, Emily walked into her school without crutches. Her teachers noticed the change in her energy levels. She even joined the art club after school. Mike divided his time between firefighting and the foundation work. Sarah taught him about nonprofit management, and he shared stories from families seeking help. "Dad, look," Emily said one evening, showing him a drawing. "It's for Sarah's office." The picture showed 3 figures, Emily, Mike, and Sarah, standing in front of Sterling Tech building. Mike brought it to the next board meeting. Sarah hung it on her office wall. "This means more than any corporate award." The foundation grew steadily. They started with 10 families in the treatment program. Local newspapers ran stories about the partnership between Sterling Tech and the fire department. During a foundation event, Mike shared his story with other parents. "I know how it feels, watching your child struggle," he said. "That's why we're here, to help carry that burden, together." Sarah approached him after his speech. "You've helped us reach so many families." "I never expected any of this when I ran into that building," Mike said. "Sometimes the best things in life come from simply doing what's right," Sarah replied. Emily's doctor confirmed her condition was stable. The new treatment had stopped the disease progression. She still needed regular checkups, but her quality of life had improved significantly. 1 year after the fire, Mike stood with Sarah at the opening of Sterling Tech's new pediatric research center. "This center will help thousands of kids like Emily," Sarah said during her speech. "Sometimes it takes a moment of crisis to show us our true purpose." Mike thought about that day in the burning building. One decision, made in seconds, had created ripples affecting so many lives. Emily joined them on stage, walking confidently. She handed Sarah a thank you card, signed by all the kids in the treatment program. "You saved my dad," Emily said. "And then you saved me too." Sarah hugged her gently. "Your dad taught me that true courage means helping others, no matter the cost." The foundation continued to grow, reaching more families each year. Mike remained a firefighter, but his experience helped bridge the gap between medical professionals and parents struggling with their children's illnesses. "Life has a strange way of connecting people," Sarah said during a quiet moment. "One act of courage can change everything." Loved this story? Tap that like button and subscribe to Mystic Tales for more. Let us know how this story made you feel with a single word in the comments.